Andy, I'm not really sure where we're gonna go. I didn't have really a clear opening this morning, but the one opening I wasn't gonna come on here with was I'm in the doldrums, Andy. Like I don't know how life is gonna continue one more
Yeah,
day. I can't believe this, that. You're never gonna hear that from us on this podcast, Andy. Uh,
never, never, because life always goes on, Dave. I think on this Friday before Veterans Day, I'll be honest. I think veterans have a much greater appreciation of that than maybe your average citizen does. We've been through enough seemingly endless pain that we know that there'll be a tomorrow, and I think a lot of Americans don't know that.
yeah, it's just a little frustrating. I mean, I've seen a lot of people come out and get like outspoken. Look, Andy, on our podcast on Wednesday, look, we both made it very clear who we voted for. But on our podcast on Wednesday, we said, look, Donald Trump is the president of the United States, and we're going to continue on with that. There's a lot of people who have a hard time with that.
Yeah,
And I mean, I've seen celebrities go on their shows and do a monologue about, what this means to them. Not once did I hear like, hey, we're going to rally around the country and we're going to move forward and we're going to fight for what we need to fight for. I did think Kamala had a pretty good concession speech. She talked about, you know, just, their ideals are important and you can keep fighting those even if you didn't win the election and
yeah,
start fighting for those things. We should always be fighting for what is right. We should always be fighting for equal treatment of all individuals. And then the country can decide, like they did on Wednesday or Tuesday, where it goes from there. So,
yeah. And Dave, and that like that's the story of America, right? Is that you
right.
go to the polls, you duke it out in votes, you win or you lose, you pick yourself up and you get back to it. Like that until last year, that was the story of America. Or not last year, the last election. That was the story of America. So Kamala Harris's response was it was good leadership. It was historically consistent with what losers of elections do, just not recently what losers of elections have done.
Yeah. So all fascinating stuff. Let's get into some of this election fallout stuff because I think it's still fascinating. Andy, surprisingly, one thing I did not hear from the Trump campaign was accounts of election fraud. We saw Trump very early in election night railing against fraud in Pennsylvania and Michigan, and that was not ironically enough because he was concerned he was going to lose those states. Some of the early numbers had indicated that he might be losing both Pennsylvania and Michigan. But since then, Andy, we didn't hear a peep from him or the right about conspiracies or election fraud, especially considering where it was so bad last time, Andy. It was so bad. It
Well,
was
I mean,
all time worse, Andy.
there has been some, to be honest. There has been
Yeah,
some
there
like
has
along the
been.
lines of there's less people voting, therefore this confirms that 2020 was in fact rigged. I mean, look, those that are looking for bullshit will find bullshit, and you're seeing a lot of it on both the right still sort of trying to justify the nonsense of 2020, and like in their absolute like out of control devastation, some on the left are doing the same thing. I mean, there is some of that, and so it's painful to watch.
Well, yeah, I mean, I heard a couple people, including Rachel Maddow, the MSNBC left commentator, talking about how remember when Trump said you won't need to vote ever again, or I've got enough votes and stuff like that. Of course, indicating that he had already banked in votes from
Yeah,
election fraud. And I'm
yeah,
like, this is just irresponsible. Like,
it
this is
is.
Rachel Maddow is not a journalist. She's an opinion artist, entertainer. She gets paid a lot of money to spew off a lot of bullshit. And again, it's the same thing with Hannity. It's the same thing with all of these guys. They're not journalists. And
Yeah.
all they are doing is to try to stoke your emotions so you continue to watch them and you continue to rail against them. But you're right, there are some conspiracies there. So, Andy, when I look at the winners and losers, I think loser is definitely conspiracy theory. There's
Yeah.
or election fraud. Didn't quite have the same run up this time, Andy. So,
Yeah, yeah, it was. I mean, you're not seeing QAnon madness, this time. And look, we said all along, a lot of great Americans, from the 95-year-old election volunteer, to those working, at the highest levels of our federal government to secure elections, and a lot of people in between, work to make sure these elections were safe, secure, and reliable. There's a lot of positive messaging about that from the government, and the results reflect the will of the people. Now, we can disagree with
Yep.
those results, but the results are what they are. And there's a lot of people, that support Kamala Harris are like really struggling to believe that Donald Trump won. Like, rather than be just absolutely like mind blown by it, like I think it's a chance to just pause and think like, why might it have resonated with people? Like something connected with people. Like rather than just dismiss it and look at them as the enemy, like maybe pause and ask like what is so like appealing, and like maybe it's a chance for reflection, and if we try, those are opportunities for unity, right? You can find like where can we come together, because there's obviously issues that connected with people. Like if we don't even like have the curiosity to try and think about what that could be, then we're not helping our country at all.
Yep, that's a fair point. Maybe we'll talk about that in the next segment here, Andy. I want to talk more about losers here. Losers, I think Joe Biden has to be a loser here.
Yeah.
I mean, his one staying in the race as long as he did, failing to heed any like strategic vision about getting out, this belief that he was the only one who could defeat Trump. And then, then pass it like not utilizing Kamala the right way to get her more exposure, whether that was right or wrong reasons. But I mean, I think and ultimately it came I think a key decisive point here was the economy is people did feel like they were worse off today than they were under Trump. Now, I think they'll quickly realize that's probably not always the president's doing. But honestly, I think Biden's legacy is really tarnished at this point.
Yeah, and he was in a really hard situation, right? I mean, he was elected to stop Trump. That's how he looked at it, at least, right? And the reality, I think a lot of what we're seeing of these last two elections, presidential elections, really goes back to COVID. I think part of the reason Donald Trump lost was because of COVID, and I think that like we talked about this a little bit on Wednesday's podcast, right? I think part of the reason that like people are still frustrated is still, if you trace it back, a result of COVID and COVID policy. And so I feel like there's sort of a wave, and in a sense, it's almost like Biden was just a blip in the middle of all this, and Trump is maybe getting the second term that he probably would have had back in 2020 had COVID not hit the way it did. Because I think he would have won a second term. I think he was doing well enough. The country was economically doing well enough. He was popular enough. I think he was on track, I think, to win 2020 had COVID not hit. I almost feel like Biden just sort of became a blip in the middle of all this process and got consumed by. I know there's obviously a lot more complexity to it than that, but I really think that was like we want to overanalyze elections a lot, I think, and like you said on Wednesday, it's sometimes it's a lot simpler than that. Like it's just about where am I personally, and am I connecting with one person or the other? And I think we're still sort of seeing COVID shake out, and that's I think it's part of why Biden is going to end up being a blip. Now, I will say this: his stepping down, while it took a minute, like it's still I think a very commendable action, and I think he'll be remembered for that. Like he walked away from the presidency, which while maybe not really fully by choice, is still really hard to do. And I think you were right Wednesday as well when you said had he not walked away, like I think the map would have been even redder than it is right now.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I still don't buy. I'm still not a big fan of the we should commend him for walking away after it was so bad. I mean, it was bad. So,
Yeah, yeah.
Andy, I want to get into two more losers here, and we're going to go into a second session here on the politics here. But the next loser, I would say, is wokeness, Andy, or is political correctness. Is this dead? I mean, there's a lot of the pushback or the feeling. Look, the one it cannot. I joked about it on the pod a couple times, but one of the biggest ads here in North Carolina was a transgender ad about um, Trump is for or Kamala's for they them, Trump is for you. That ad played everywhere. It wasn't just North Carolina. And this transgender, these identity type of issues really have gone to the well. people may feel like they've gone to the extreme. And so is wokeness dead? Is that a loser here, Andy?
I think in this election, that idea kind of lost, right? But I think one, wokeness is a term that's being thrown around a lot now, mostly as a negative term from the right. And it's a term that's kind of come to almost lose its meaning, right? Like
Yeah.
from what it started out as and the way in which it was used to sort of just now becoming anything that's, like you said, maybe a little politically correct, maybe a little tolerant. It's like, oh, that's woke politics, and like that, like it doesn't really even mean anything. And I think there is somewhat of a backlash. I think a lot of people did feel like a lot of things are being sort of shoved down their throat, which one can argue, you know what I mean? But at the same time, like a lot of the issues that are sort of caught up in that are like real issues. And I think a lot of people still believe in diversity. People still believe in letting individuals choose their life, whether it's about their orientation or their gender or their career or like whatever it is that people want to, like, you have the right to choose your own life, and we should be able to respect that and move on. So I don't really think so. I just think, Trump and the right were able to sort of leverage some frustration and make things issues at a higher level. Now, again, there's space between those two sides to say, are there some things we should consider and think about and look at, and maybe we're taking some things the wrong way, blah, 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 blah. Yeah, absolutely. But no, I don't think the ideas of tolerance and diversity, like I don't think those ideas are dead. I just think it was a bad election for him.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. I've already seen a couple Democratic Congress people come out and say, "Look, I'm not going to get behind this trans." The Democratic Party says we should be all for transgender and playing in youth sports and all this other stuff. And look, I know that's the extreme. We're talking about very few instances around the world that this actually occurs in, but it does get the bulk of the media attention. I'll be interested to see how it plays out. To be very clear. You're exactly right. This is why I like you so much, Andy, because
Thank you. Thank you.
you agree with my wife. That you both had the same thing when I talked about this at home. Look, I mean, treating people with respect and equality, that's not like a fad. That's not a
No.
wokeness.
Yeah.
That's about being basic human behavior. And we should, like, people should have the right to choose. If they identify a certain way, I respect that. Now, it doesn't mean I have to agree with them, but that's what we've been talking about a lot. We have to be able to work and operate and function in a society where we don't have to agree with you to have a good relationship with you. All right, Andy, this is one I want to give you enough time on this one here. Was a loser in this election and maybe even the future elections, Gen X, Andy.
Dave,
You
yes.
touched on this on Wednesday,
Yeah.
where you ended on fuck the boomers and fuck
Yeah.
the millennials.
Yeah.
Um,
Dave, I was so enraged by it, to be honest. I mentioned on the pod
go, go
that,
rant, go, Andy.
then I went on Threads and I posted a quote from the pod. I was so enraged. I forgot that I'd posted it from the pod and was like, you know what? We've got to talk about this on the podcast again. Because like I was so pissed about it. Dave, look, Trump, Biden, whoever it is, right? Like I'm so fucking sick of the boomers squashing Gen X. Like our whole lives, we have to live in the shadow of this generation that won't get the fuck off the stage. Look, if you love Donald Trump or you hate Donald Trump, the reality is like he's going to be dead in 10 to 15 years because he's an old man, right? The future does
In
not
5 years,
belong.
Andy. He's gonna be dead at
I mean, look, I don't know, right? He's not in good shape. Like we know that
Yeah.
right now. And I'm not, for anybody listening, I'm not wishing him death nor encouraging his death. I'm just saying, like, the reality is he's an old man, and he's not going to make it to 100 years old, right? But like the boomers are not the future. They are generations past. We have multiple generations alive after them. They should not be the ones making decisions, neither in the executive branch, nor in Congress, nor in the Supreme Court, because the future doesn't fucking matter to them, right? And look, respect to our parents and a generation that, like, I'm fine with boomers, like go live your lives and enjoy your time. Like, that's great. Like, you deserve to do that. But quit fucking telling the future how to live their lives. Get the fuck out of politics. Now we've got to live with Donald Trump for another 4 fucking years, right? He doesn't own the future, right? He doesn't own the fucking future. He's gonna be dead. He shouldn't be deciding what's best for Gen X, millennials, Gen Z, Gen Alpha. Like get the fuck out of the way. And they won't, Dave. They refuse to like go there.
Refuse.
That old saying, like they like, you can have my rifle and you're proud of my cold dead fingers. Like that is the boomers in relation to politics, right? You can have the future when you pry out of my cold dead fucking boomer fingers. I'm so tired of it. Like they need to get the hell off the stage. And my frustration, Dave, is like we're getting old. Like Gen X is getting old. Gen X is, I still believe, like the most calm, even though I'm not calm right now, chill generation, right? And I think we've got a lot to offer this country as a generation. Like we have great perspective and experiences, the way we grew up, that I think would be a good bridge to millennials and the future. And because the fucking boomers won't die, right? I think Gen X is going to get largely skipped over. I think America will be looking around and we see, appealing young candidates from Pete Buttigieg to young mayors and senators on both left and right, around the country that are appealing, and like they are the future and they deserve to be the future. And 4 years from now, like they should be the future. And it's very possible Gen X will never see a president or a Senate majority leader, and I look at that and I think, man, the boomers will be fucking us to our graves. Like they will be screwing us to our graves. Get the fuck out of politics. I mean, I look at Mitch McConnell. I know he's retiring now, but like that guy's been Senate Majority Leader for a long time, or the leader of the Republicans for a long time. Like, go, like you should have left 20 years ago, motherfucker. Or, I mean, like all of these people. Pelosi, same thing. Like I know people, oh, I love Nancy Pelosi. Like, how long was she the leader of the House Democrats? Like, Hakeem Jeffries is doing fine. He's doing fine. She could have left a long ass time ago, right? But she refused to. David kills me. So sorry, went on long, but
No, no, no.
man,
I wanted to give you the floor. I know you're passionate about this, Andy,
passionate
but
about it.
it is. I mean, it's absolutely true. I mean, and look, I'll carry it over to sports. Look at the fucking boomer that's running the Cowboys to the ground. Like
Yeah,
this is he's older than Biden,
yeah.
and Cowboy fans are like, I mean, this is fucking ridiculous. We're fucked because Jerry Jones. But you're right. I mean, I do think that the loser here is Gen X. Is we do have again these older like look, we're not ageist. Just get the fuck off the stage. I mean, you would be putting your parents in homes at this point, boomers, if
Yeah.
they were in the same position. In fact, we know you did because we had to live through that, right? So, all right, Andy, let's go into anything on politics before we move on to the last segment
No,
here.
please, please let's move on. Please let's move
All
on.
right. All right. Look, everyone, we're probably not going to cover a lot of politics, but it did warrant a lot. There were a lot of questions. I mean, I do think at the end of the day, there's a lot of things that there's a lot of things that people are going to overanalyze, and sometimes it's just the basic things. People are just not feeling the same way they did, and they voted that way, even despite somebody who's hateful and who says fucking crazy ass shit. Okay. All right. Moving on.
Moving on.
Andy, the Ravens last night. Man, I watched the first half of that game last night, Andy, and the Ravens in the first half kind of scare me. They have a lot of games where they're coming back in the fourth quarter to win games.
Yeah,
And look, Lamar can do it. He's a great quarterback. He's having an MVP season again. This could be his third MVP.
yeah,
Derrick Henry's playing great, but their defense is not it keeps getting exposed. And Cincinnati, who's having trouble scoring 25 points on most weeks, against the Ravens, they put up 35 and
yeah,
38, and just really pushing them around. But the Ravens are 7-3. They're still going to come back and regret that Cleveland loss. They're going to come back and regret that Raven or Raiders loss when they're fighting for home field in the playoffs. But I mean, here they are, 7-3, still going along.
yeah. And when they win, I mean, they do some amazing things, right? Like I said, Lamar playing great football. He's right now in the NFL rankings, ranked as a top quarterback. And like he's been the MVP. He's shown that he can really play football. Like he's just exciting to watch. And again, you go back and just think about how many teams passed on Lamar twice, right? Twice
Yeah.
teams passed on Lamar Jackson. Like he's really a game changer. And then they added Derrick Henry this year, Dave, like we were talking about before, and like it's just causing problems. And like my position has not changed. Like the team I want least for the Detroit Lions facing the Super Bowl. And Dave, right now, like the NFL forecasters, like everybody's on board with the Lions as the most likely team to win the Super Bowl, which is still blowing my mind. Like I feel like I'm not living in reality. I'll come back to that point in a second and bring it back to politics, Dave. But besides that, like I'm still most petrified of having to play the Ravens in the Super Bowl because I'm like that team has shown that they can absolutely beat monsters. You're right, their defense is questionable, but I still think they're really top talent.
Yeah, I mean, Lamar's throwing the ball great. I mean, he's not running as much anymore, but he's got wide receivers now. He can throw the ball around, and Derrick Henry can run the ball really
Yeah,
well.
yeah,
So a little crazy. On my team's front, Andy, other than talking about that fucking age-old boomer who's running the team into the ground, we've got Cooper Rush is now the quarterback of the Cowboys. Dak is really the hamstring injury. Anybody who's had a really like a hamstring injury in the first place, you know these things don't heal very quickly in the first place. His was particularly bad. Some reports that it came off, the hamstring came off the bone, and that's really bad. I mean, he's going to be out for a while. Frankly, Andy, he shouldn't come back the rest of the year. Heal up, get ready. I mean, yeah, you've already committed the money to him. It doesn't really matter. They're not going to make the playoffs. They've got to win, I think, like seven of the next nine, 8 games they have to play, or 9 games they have to play. It's not going to happen. I struggle getting them three, but Cooper Rush, Andy, go get them, Red.
yeah.
So
I mean, they might be done. And you're right. What is the point of Dak coming back this season? Really? Like he's just looking to get injured. And one, in Cooper Rush, like Trey Lance, where are you, brother? Like you're
uh,
supposed to be the starting quarterback for the San Francisco 49ers. You're now losing the QB battle to back up the Dallas Cowboys to what 30-something-year-old Cooper Rush. Like, man, sorry, Trey.
I mean, and that's the thing. I mean, look back at that, Andy. I mean, was he the third pick?
Yes, yes, I think so.
I,
I think
I
so.
mean, he was the third pick. He played 1 year
Yeah,
at South Dakota
barely,
State.
barely played.
Yeah, barely played, and yet he was the like that top pick there. If you go back to that draft, maybe we should. I know I did a top, the quarter one of those weeks that you were out. I did a
Yeah,
review of like the top, first round quarterbacks over the last so many years. I mean, it's hard to believe that he's not getting any time. Oh, but the Cowboys gave up a fourth round pick for him, Andy. They gave
yeah.
up a fourth round pick for him.
Trust in Jerry. Trust.
I tell you, it's really crazy. And I mean, we have other first round quarterbacks that also are, they're just not looking too good over the
Yeah,
course of time here. So, Andy, anything else on a football front as we head into this? I mean, we're getting close here. I mean, we're almost at Thanksgiving weekend.
yeah.
It's getting crunch time here for some of these teams.
It is. Dave, we might have to invite our friends Alex and Meg back onto a midseason check.
Oh yeah.
I think it'd be fun to hear them talk, where they are with Lions midseason here, and maybe talk about Doritos too, which is a topic that's come up quite a bit in some of those threads. But yeah, just I'll connect our segments here in just one way. Maybe like there's if you go to the Bible, there's moments where like the devil going to God and like negotiating, like can I do this to Job, right? And they're going back and forth. Maybe the devil went to God and was like, look, I want Donald Trump back in the White House, and maybe the deal is like, look, I will let you put Donald Trump back in the White House, but you have to break the curse of the Detroit Lions, and like it ended with Matt Patricia, but maybe the deal was Donald Trump or Detroit Lions Super Bowl. They come together. And I think if you ask most Lions fans, like, would you accept Donald Trump for 4 more years to break this decades-long Lions curse? I think most of us take that deal. So, I feel responsible for electing Donald Trump, both for having voted for Kamala Harris, and like I said, I always vote for the not winner in elections. And two, maybe I accepted the deal of the Detroit Lions winning the Super Bowl as long as Donald Trump is president. Maybe that's what happened here.
I mean, that's a fair point. You think, I mean, God would have gone in all in on, I mean, Trump for the Lions? I mean, wouldn't it have been like some team that's really,
Did you see I mean, the devil gave us Matt Patricia, Dave. God
I,
took it away. So I think, I think we suffered enough. Lions are long suffering, and it ended on the hardest note possible. So, I don't know. I don't know, Dave. I'm just throwing it out there as an idea. Maybe that's what happened here.
okay, well, I mean, if that, it look, I mean, the Lions, I mean, isn't there some crazy stat where like, freaking Jared Goff has more touchdown passes in the last couple weeks than incompletions or something. It's
Definitely.
crazy. I mean, Jared Goff. I mean, remember where he was after that Super Bowl with the Rams and how down people were about we Jared Goff's a bust as a because this is another top first round
Number one pick.
quarterback.
Number one pick.
I mean, this is him where he
Yeah.
was written off for dead. I mean, he started with Jeff Fisher. Jeff Fisher basically couldn't win with him. So then McVay comes in and he has a resurgent, but they felt like he was like he was maxed out. And then he goes to the Lions
Yeah.
after that Super Bowl or the year after that, and look at what he's done in his career. Like I would say, Jared Goff as a number one draft pick, success, wouldn't you? I mean,
Yeah,
like,
definitely success. He's been in the Super Bowl and he's been leading his team successfully for the last few years, and probably, I mean, like as far as like odds right now, like very likely to go back to Super Bowl. And look, most quarterbacks never get there. Like most
yeah,
quarterbacks never get there, and he's got a good chance of getting there at least twice. So yeah, definitely a success. I think same thing with um, Matt Stafford, right? I mean,
yeah.
it's the same thing there. So Dave, I
Well,
have
that's a good
one.
point.
Go ahead.
Stafford too was also a number one draft pick, right? I mean, so that's
Yeah,
like you talk about two quarterbacks who had really different, like they were good, but they weren't great. And now you put, I mean, Stafford could be a Hall of Famer, and then Jared Goff still got a lot of years ahead of him.
yeah, yeah. Absolutely. Yeah, Stafford was the 0-16 pick, right, after going 0
Mhm.
16 for the Lions. But yeah, one more thing we got there. Like the Lions are playing Sunday night, a gift to America against the Houston Texans. Have you seen the Texans' new red uniforms?
No, hold on.
They're hot, man. They're hot. Like I mean, they're gonna lose in them. Hopefully they're gonna lose bad in them. But like they're good looking uniforms. So if you haven't checked those out, like check out Monday night or Sunday night football this week. You can see the Lions playing in Houston. If I think I'm pretty sure it's a road game, and the Texans look good in those dynamic red uniforms.
Oh, that does look pretty
Yeah,
good. The
yeah,
bold bull is what they're calling
right.
it.
That's right.
I mean, that's anybody. We may have to. You may have to link this on Threads. I like these alternate uniforms. I'm not a huge fan. You remember a couple years back where they had the Color Rush
Yeah,
uniform,
color rush
and
wasn't. Yeah, it didn't work.
that's not this. I mean, these are like all like the fucking Jaguars they had that mustard color, and it was like just this. I was like, what the fuck is this?
Yeah,
But anyways, all right, Andy, good way to wrap up the week. It's a busy week, now we can look forward to the next couple the weeks ahead. Looking forward to some food discussions about as we get closer to Thanksgiving. Look forward to the holidays. I'm excited about what's going on
yeah.
here. And so we got a lot to cover, even though we can bury election discussion. Um,
Can
um,
we?
we'll cover it from here
Yeah,
to there.
it'll still come up. But yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, obviously we have to speak to it. But yeah, I look forward to talking about other things, better things. And just, I mean, listen, for anybody that's really like down the doldrums, like Dave, we both know, like the future is still waiting for us, right? The world is
Yeah.
not over, right? So I've talked to a lot of people that were absolutely devastated, this week, and like move forward. Like, and Dave, I didn't even get into this. We have to come back to this on Monday. The psycho comments,
Oh, yeah, we
oh,
did. Yeah.
Dave, I mean, I need to be taken out. I was referred to as a maggot.
Yeah.
I was told how I voted by numerous people. Like, obviously, you voted for Donald Trump. I mean, I was like, "Man, like, what is like, chill, like, what are you talking about, people?" So
These are
anyway,
and this is where the bots come in, Andy, because clearly if anybody reads your profile or any of your postings, it's clearly not.
but I don't think they were bots. I think they weren't. Like, I went back, I looked some of the I looked some of the profiles. I was curious, like what, and
Yeah.
like some of them were suspended, some were turned off. So I don't think I was the only person they were going, berserk on. But
Jeez.
I mean, look, there's loonies on the left, there's loonies on the right, there's loonies in between. Like that's part of just being a wild ass democracy. But hey, Dave, happy Friday to you, and Dave, we should
Yeah,
say it. Happy almost Veterans Day. And thank you for
that's
your
right.
service, and thanks to all of our brothers and sisters out there who have worn the uniform and worn the flag on their shoulder. I mean, there's a lot to say. Maybe we'll talk about that more on Monday, because we don't take holidays. But it's
No,
thanks to everybody who served in uniform, and happy Veterans Day in advance.
one thing I will wrap on, Andy, then is just to your point about crazy comments. The media, hey, let's get a fucking life, guys. The reason why I think a lot of these things have occurred is considering your reporting. And I have some examples that I'd like to pull in maybe on Monday. Andy, everyone, they're talking about how do we resist this now?
Yeah,
How do we work together to build a better America?
no
That's the
kidding.
piece that's missing. We got to fight back, Andy. That's
Yeah,
what they're saying.
yeah.
So.
It's always like,
These are media members, Andy. Like I'm like, nope. Maybe you should do what this is why. I mean, I think they're a contributor to the loser here.
Yeah.
Anyways,
Yeah.
but that's
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely.
yeah, the media lost on some of this too, and
Yeah.
they should have, frankly, because
Yeah.
they've abandoned their media privileges. All right, Andy, good way to end on the week. We'll see you on Monday for Veterans Day, and we'll catch up with you next time.